Ladies and gentlemen, today the subject is how to recognize God's answers. There's a profound beauty in the way God answers us, though his voice doesn't always boom like thunder or flash like lightning. Often his answers come quietly through the whispers of our spirit, the actions of others, or the circumstances we face. Yet so many of us miss his responses, not because he isn't speaking, but because we're not truly listening. God's answers are not always what we expect, but they are always exactly what we need. 1. God's answers often come in unexpected ways. When we approach God with prayers, it's natural to have certain expectations about how he will respond. We imagine direct, immediate answers that align with our desires. But God, in his infinite wisdom, often responds in ways that defy our understanding. His answers come in unexpected forms, teaching us to trust his plan over our limited perspective. For instance, you may pray for courage to face a challenge. Instead of feeling an immediate surge of bravery, you might encounter a person who inspires you or a situation that requires you to act boldly. This indirect answer may feel like silence from God, but it's his way of giving you the tools to grow and meet the moment. The Bible offers countless examples of God working in unexpected ways. Take Moses, for example. When the Israelites prayed for deliverance from Egypt, they likely envisioned immediate liberation. Instead, God chose Moses, a reluctant leader, to confront Pharaoh. The path to freedom was filled with obstacles, but it was precisely those trials that demonstrated God's power and faithfulness. Learning to recognize God's unexpected answers requires humility and spiritual discernment. Instead of clinging to our expectations, we must open our hearts to the possibility that God's ways are higher and his plans more perfect than our own. 2. A no or a wait from God is still an answer. It's human nature to interpret a no or a delay as rejection or indifference. But with God, a no is often a redirection, and a wait is an invitation to trust his timing. These responses reflect his love and wisdom, even when they don't align with our immediate desires. Consider the Apostle Paul, who prayed 3 times for God to remove the thorn in his flesh. God's answer was not to take away the thorn, but to assure Paul of his sufficient grace. This no taught Paul to rely on God's strength rather than his own, ultimately deepening his faith and ministry. Waiting is equally challenging. We live in a fast-paced world where delays are often seen as setbacks. But in God's economy, waiting is purposeful. It's a time of preparation, growth, and alignment with his will. Think of David, who was anointed king as a young shepherd, but had to wait years before ascending the throne. During this time, God shaped his character, teaching him the humility and wisdom he would need to lead. Understanding that no and wait are still answers requires a shift in mindset. They are not signs of God withholding blessings, but indications of his desire to give us something better in his perfect timing. 3. God often speaks through people and circumstances. God's voice is not limited to an audible sound or divine revelation. Often he communicates through the people we interact with and the circumstances we encounter. Recognizing these messages requires attentiveness and a willingness to see his hand in every detail of our lives. Think about the friends, family members, or mentors who have spoken words of wisdom into your life. Their advice, encouragement, or even constructive criticism may be God's way of guiding you. For example, a friend's suggestion to pursue a new opportunity might be the nudge you need to follow God's plan for your career. Circumstances, too, can serve as divine messages. A closed door may feel like a disappointment, but it could be God redirecting you to a path that leads to greater blessings. Similarly, an unexpected opportunity may be his way of opening new doors for growth and purpose. The story of Ruth and Naomi illustrates this beautifully. After facing great loss, Ruth's decision to stay with Naomi and her subsequent marriage to Boaz led to blessings neither could have foreseen. Through ordinary relationships and events, God orchestrated an extraordinary plan. To recognize God's voice in people and circumstances, we must remain prayerful and open-minded. This requires looking beyond the surface and trusting that God is actively working in and through every detail of our lives. 4. Recognizing God's answers requires faith and obedience. Faith is the foundation for recognizing God's answers. It involves trusting his character even when his plans seem unclear or his timing feels delayed. Faith allows us to lean on his promises, knowing that he is always working for our good. Obedience, however, is where faith is put into action. When God answers our prayers, especially in ways that challenge us, obedience is the key to experiencing his full blessings. For instance, God may call you to step out of your comfort zone, to forgive someone who hurt you, or to take a leap of faith in your career. These actions often require courage and a willingness to surrender your own desires to his will. The story of Abraham exemplifies this. When God called Abraham to leave his homeland and go to an unknown land, his obedience was immediate, even though he didn't know the destination. This act of faith not only fulfilled God's promise to make him the father of many nations, but also deepened Abraham's relationship with God. Faith and obedience work hand in hand. Faith gives us the strength to obey, and obedience deepens our faith. Together, they create a life that is attuned to God's voice, making it easier to recognize and embrace his answers. Recognizing God's answers is a journey that requires humility, patience, and a willingness to align with his will. Whether his response comes in unexpected ways, through people and circumstances, or as a no or wait, his answers are always rooted in love and wisdom. By cultivating faith and obedience, we can trust that his guidance will lead us to a life of purpose and fulfillment in his divine plan. God bless you.